button. Wait, why are you coming out of my head?
Top devices right now.
Hi, Gabe.
Hold on. I hear Manny, but why are you guys coming out of my computer speaker?
Check 1, 2. Hey.
There we go. Hey, Manny. Manny, can you hear us?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay, cool. And yep,
I'm gonna hop off. I'm switching devices right now.
Switching devices. All right. So, quick question, quick little mini discussion again on this. So, I did, like I said, and I kind of hinted at this on Tuesday. I made sure to put this out very similar to the switch statement because I wanted to hint towards that, and I knew that with the switch statement, you guys would 100% succeed on this. Yeah, the cleaner thing here is that we have only one scenario. It's a do this or this situation. If you look at it, we either change it to block or we do nothing, which is a binary kind of option, which is where if statements can really succeed, really excel. If statements excel in the binary situation where there's a do this or this. Switch statements excel when there are more than like 3 different options. You can even get away with it if there's 3 options, there's 3 things to do. You can do a if else, but really if statements they excel for binary situations, where there's a do this or this, and switch statements excel when there's at least 4 or more things you can do, with 3 more things you can do.
So like comparisons. So like
What's that, Freddie?
Like greater than. You can't do like greater than or lesser than.
That too, yes.
Like
those are the other thing. Yeah, that's the other variation, right? Good point on that. Yeah. Or if you have to do like to check for ranges. Yeah. Yeah, you can't do greater than or less than. You can only check for equality in switch statements. If statements can do greater than or less than or a range. Good add there.
Like a switch statements are good for like if you look at, you don't have to do dot equals like for a string, because you can case statements are good for like looking for strings and for numbers. And
True.
I mean, to some degree it's quicker, but yes, it depends on the size of the
biggest way you'll know that you've probably switched to a statement to a switch statement is if you're constantly just doing if x equal to this, if then do this, if x is equal to y or z, then do this. If x is equal to a, do this. And so if you have these a bunch of equal signs with different instructions on each one, then you likely want to do that should be screaming at you switch. So in this case, because it's very binary, if it exists and it's anything but blocked, you want to block it. Otherwise, we build new ones. So I am going to say that I'm going to go Freddie's route to keep this thing nice and clean and simple for you guys to see nice and simple code. 100% what you guys did with the switch statement is 100% accurate and perfectly fine and can be beneficial if later on we do want different features with our types of items. We want to have like more aggressive types of blocks, like we want to mark for spam or something like that. Things, if you're thinking of that nature, if we need to worry about spams or blocks and then adding additional, like if we want to kind of do like a 3-strike or X amount of strikes, we need to maybe shadow ban them if they get blocked a certain amount of time or sort of thing. So there is, if they want to add more logic here, then maybe we would switch it to the switch statement again to do more additional items depending on the situation. So, so in this case though, we're just gonna go for that. So first, let's grab it like we did before. So relation optional. Repository dot find the organizer and recipient, originator ID, recipient dot get ID, if rel dot is present and rel get type is equal to, or not equal, sorry, not equal to ship. We can do that. We can also just put that in the if statement too, technically, I guess. Yeah. Yeah, hold on. Change on this actually. Let's do the and here. If it's present, we can do interesting thing here. If type is blocked, not blocked, we're going to l.get type to e relationship dot blocked. Repository dot save. And again, this is where if you want to add a try catch, you can. Dot get. Outside the if statement. So then only if it's not blocked are we going to actually do this. If it's present and it is to hit this line and not run this, that means it wasn't. That means it was already blocked, right? So we're going to hit this line no matter what. But if we don't run this, we know the status was blocked. No matter what, the main thing we can say though is that REL by this line is blocked. No matter what was the situation, no matter what, if we hit line 111, REL is now a blocked relationship, right? It either was one or it is one now. Is that a correct logical statement to make? Good. And those are kind of those, and that's things. That's another great thing to practice during these, being able to say those logical statements, being able to say on 111, we know that REL is blocked because it either was blocked or this code ran and made it blocked. Now we can simply do the return new response entity, message response, blocked. See how that works? So first we see if it's present, cool. Well, if it's present, let's make sure that if it's not blocked, we block it. Otherwise, it's already blocked, we're good. Then we can just return that it's blocked. We're good.
So
That's our
on
key.
109, on 109, that we don't need to try catch because we've already went through so many checks that this has to exist.
Pretty much. And the idea here is that we know that in our code, the only thing being changed between this point here, where it already exists, so it already was successfully saved once, and this point is to change to an enum. Enums cannot be misspelled and cannot be misdone, cannot be done incorrectly. We cannot, otherwise this would fail. If we use an enum, this wouldn't fail, this would fail.
Yeah.
So by this point, there's nothing that can go wrong in this other than I guess the database is suddenly disconnected. And in
Well,
that
that's
case,
what that was going to be my next question. You would only put a try catch in here now just to make sure that the data that it has that the database is not connected or it doesn't go anywhere. That's like
right.
Can't save.
Yep.
Okay.
That is something else you could do. With that kind of thing, I put that at the higher level, probably with a try catch more at the top of the out here, because I know I'm going to do multiple dot saves on the repository potentially. So I'd probably put the try catch here, not here. I know I'm going to hit it, so I would just probably move this up. That way, if it does fail because the database died, I would catch it here, not making multiple try catches here, here, and there. They're not necessary. This one is here just in case the new relationship is bad because of the originator or the recipient. But again, we already mentioned this data type or this entity is so simple, it really shouldn't fail based on how we write our code. That's why we're sending back the generic server error, because we're not ever expecting this to happen. Next one, let's go ahead and do the inverse relationship. Repository. Recipient. Recipient.getID and originator.getID. Again, that's how you see the inverse. It asks for originator recipient and we give it recipient originator. That's what makes it inverted. And then we can pretty much do the exact same thing here, just with inval. So we can copy this. And this is where those things, I guess you could argue, you know what, let's make a function out of this. Let's make a private function out of this, out of these. Something you could do if you wanted to clean up the code a bit, so you don't have this repetition here. I would accept a optional relationship as its parameter, and then run through the same code for both of these. So I think it's 100% identical. Rel. the enter key. That's it. I'm actually gonna go ahead and get rid of the comments from my code so I can clean it up. Keep them there in yours if you want. But I'm gonna clean up the comment. Any questions about the code? Pretty straightforward. That looks tasty, Matt. For some reason, Zoom wants to put you right as like the person next to me, so just see you pound away. Thanks, Zoom, for that. Now he's dead. It's all good.
Okay, he died eating something tasty.
Yep, he's good.
It looks better than it tastes.
Oh, that's unfortunate. I don't like the sound of that. All right, let's do the next one quick. We'll go ahead, and the next one was the post mapping for approving. Post map / approve. And again, I know I gave you our ID, but we're gonna actually, now I'm gonna remind you that technically the approve route is only gonna be triggered. Again, if we do if we keep up with our discussion, Travis to Nick, pending. So this is Travis sending it. So the only one who should see the approve button is Nick. We could argue that yes, Travis could attempt to send it, but we're never going to look for that. We're only ever going to look for a route where it's not the RID here. The logged in person should be Nick, not Travis, that's trying to do this. So the person that's logged in is not the recipient. The person logged in is the originator, and what we're approving is the request from the originator. So we're going to approve the OID, not the mouse, not the RID. And to be honest, what I will say, probably moving forward, actually, what we're going to end up most likely doing actually is changing this to be approved ID, and we'll actually get the relationship ID most likely from our front end, because we can pass the relationship ID down to the front end and just use the relationship ID instead of having to pull the two people. We can just pull the recipient, so the logged in user, pull the relationship and make sure that that logged in user is the recipient. And as long as they are, we can approve it, right? So that's the other logic we probably would have, because we know we can send that down. So again, to clarify that 1 second, let's do it. Entity. Long. OID. But again, to think about it, if we think about how the front end works, we can get the relationships for our user and send them down, and we're probably going to include the ID number for that relationship. So we can get the relationship ID that our table has. Remember, our table for the relationship system has the ID for that row, the originator ID, and the recipient ID, as well as the type. That's 4 fields technically. This is the only, and this right here, this route here is the only one where we're trying to affect an existing one. And so this one we could do as a put. This one would make the most sense as being our put. Make sense? Because this is the only one we're expecting to already have an entity in place. And if it doesn't, we're not going to create one. Because we said before, the scenario that we thought of where we could have the situation where someone approves a relationship that is no longer there is, again, let's say Travis sent the request to Nick goes to approve it, but Travis deleted his. Nick should be able to approve that all of a sudden, because then Travis can be very confused, like, wait, I deleted that, why are we now friends? I undid that, why are we now friends? So Travis would get very, very confused. We probably would want to, on our front end, of course, send Nick a message saying that the friend request is invalid or it didn't work. Or probably want to do that. Tell him that he can send a request instead if he wants, unless he's been blocked. If Travis just dropped it, then yeah, we might want to tell Nick, hey, this request has expired, send a new one. Does our system actually expire requests? No, but does our front end person know that? Does our customer know that we don't actually expire requests? No, we can just tell them that it did. Right? Again, they make the assumption. They don't know why it expired or how it expired, just that it did. The request was expired for some reason. Most people don't need to know exactly why. Very few people will actually care. If someone asks, you can let them know. Most cases, most people just be like, oh, okay, I'll send one myself then, or I don't care. They don't want, if it's dead, it's dead. And if they want to be my friend, they can resend it. Right?
Just a question.
Go for it.
Our system can already handle this. Say if I log in, say if I create myself and I go in and I made just made five, I posted up 5 friends, just made up 5 friends, right? And then immediately deleted my account.
Okay.
Does that leave those, well, we would have to go through and delete the pendings, or mine would be completely, those wouldn't have to worry about that, right?
So you sent the request, then deleted your account.
Yeah, so my request still is my request to you still existing?
Well, currently, no, because you wouldn't. Well, currently we have no way of deleting your account, so there's nothing. But
Yeah.
you got to remember about the concept of the we would have the reference error in SQL. So we
Okay.
tried to delete that row. SQL is going to tell us, hey, we can't delete that row because there's rows in other tables that are referencing this item. So we get a reference error. So part of your deletion process would include making sure to delete any records from other tables that are referencing this row. So that's something to be very much aware of in SQL, is that there is that binding that happens in SQL, and that's something that can be slightly annoying in SQL.
So basically, you would have
simple.
to, yeah. So basically, like in this particular case, I would have to go through. All right, he like went through and asked for these people. We just like clear what the people were back to either nothing or remove those.
Yeah.
And then
Now,
just remove those relations and everything will be fine.
Yep. Now, what I would say is you want to check in with JPA. JPA has that cascade system. And so there's a good chance if you try to delete it, JPA may automatically try to remove all the self-referential items that are bound to it. So by deleting the reliant item, the item that are based that are rely on it would go away with it. So you could always check on it to see if that's a feature that JPA has. A cascade-based deletions that you don't have to then code all the removals yourself.
Yeah.
And this is also another reason why soft deletion is very is highly appreciated, where you can delete somebody by just deleting them. So while again, Travis sends Nick a request, he says, hey, I don't want to be a part of the site anymore, so we soft delete him. He signed up for a site, and on the terms of service, we can keep that data. Any data we collected on him is our data. So he removes himself from the site though, and so we soft delete it. No one can access it except us. It's now internal data, proprietary. Nick can still see that request. He can go ahead and try and approve it, but as soon as he approves it, he then doesn't see Travis on the site anymore. If Nick then goes to Travis and say, hey, I accepted a friend request from you. Why aren't you on? I don't see you though. It's like, oh, I deleted my account. And then Nick be like, oh, okay, never mind then. Done. We don't really need to do that because again, most people don't realize times. Most people won't talk. It's very, could Nick ask, or could Travis ask Nick, well, when did you approve it? And they're like, but I deleted it after. And most people that will just be like, oh, there must have been just something weird in the system then. Very few people care that aggressive except for developers. And you remember, most of your customers are not developers. They're just gonna, and most people have a weird feeling that most computer systems are weird and buggy anyway, and are crap anyway. So most people wouldn't care. They'd be like, it must have been a weird thing. And they'll just move on. One thing to be aware of, you don't need a perfect application. Very few people care. They think they care more than they do. They don't. As long as it works, that's all they care about. And if it's a little weird at times, it's like, yeah, it's computer, it's technology. Technology is weird. Technology confuses me, and they don't try to understand. So, yeah. So in this case, again, and we're going to take this approach as, again, the TA system. Both of our current routes right here are very careful to make sure we only ever create one record, that we never create multiple. I will say that because of race conditions, could be Sometimes get a fluke of a secondary item, possibly. It is definitely possible if race conditions occur. It is unlikely and something we can code for later. It's something we can deal with later on in your system. In the beginning, you can just deal with it. It shouldn't really cause a issue in your system. The worst case scenario that I can think of off the top of my head is when they look at their friends list, they'll just see the same person listed twice. We can always look for that and kind of try to clean that up in other systems. So don't worry so much about perfection in your systems. Remember that you're not going for perfection. So let's deal with this. We just want to deal with things that are most obvious that we can think of. Anyway, here we go. What was it saying? So yeah, back to my original thing. So in the front end, like I said, we would definitely have the RID, which would actually be the relationship ID, not the recipient ID. And so there was a second reason. So again, not to sound like I played three-dimensional chess or anything like that, or checkers, whatever. There was a two-factor thing to that RID. The RID definitely felt to most of you as the recipient ID. And it can be. It could also have been the originator ID, just RID to ARCs. I didn't want to give you guys away that the recipient is actually the recipient in this one is actually the originator on the relationship. The other thing that the RID can stand for is relationship ID. And so those are the two variations we can do with this. We don't need, and what this is going to benefit us is we don't need to validate who the originator is if we have the relationship ID and the user is our recipient. The recipient just is pretty much telling our system, hey, this relationship ID, go ahead and approve it. I'm the recipient, I can approve it. We don't care who the originator is. As a system, we don't care who the originator is. That doesn't really matter to me. We don't need to validate the originator. We shouldn't have to search our database for it. We have a much more useful item, the relationship ID. And we don't have to do a two-tiered pull. We can pull a relationship by a single ID, and ID is indexed and much easier to search by. It's searched much faster. So we're going to approach this in that manner. So instead of doing OID, we're just going to do ID. So we know it's a relationship ID, not the originator or the recipient. Let's go ahead and pull in our user. So we'll go ahead and copy that code from above. And what I saw before though, good job. Don't feel, we'll be very happy with what you guys built for those of you who attempted this. What I gave you, I did not give you a lot. So pull the current user. Our current user is our recipient. So we're going to go ahead and do optional. Oh, you don't need that actually, sorry. That's it. We have our user. That's all we need. We just need the user. We do need the developer ID, I believe, right? We need the developer, didn't we? Yeah, we need the, we do need the developer, right? Okay. He's our recipient. So developer recipient repository dot find by user ID. Where that came from? ID. Or let's throw. Or you should have just copied the code from above, but it's fine. That's exception. And we put, what was it, 404? What would we usually put for that? Right, not found. That's it. Let's grab that. Yep. Oh, oops. Yeah, something like that. Right. We have a recipient. With our recipient, we want to pull the relationship though from the ID. We don't want to pull based on the recipient. We're just going to pull by the ID. And all we need to do there is just validate that our recipient is actually the recipient of this approve ID. Because of course, someone could, let's say malicious, we got hacker Matt back in again. Hacker Matt finds a relationship ID and decides, you know, I'm just gonna make these people like each other. So I'm gonna go ahead and approve it. Just gonna put the ID number here. And yet he's not the recipient. He went ahead and made a Manny and Freddie friends. So Manny sent Freddie an invite and Matt's like, oh yeah, these two are friends. I'm gonna make it so. We don't want Matt being able to do that. No, Freddie might not want to be friends. Freddie might just want to be a loner. But that's the thing. We want to make sure we can check for that. So we want to make sure that the person, that the logged in user actually is the recipient of this relationship. If they aren't, we can just send back an unauthorized. Relationship L equals repository dot find by ID. Or else throw, and this will again be the the not found response. We did not find the relationship. So again, someone could just give us a bad ID number. If rel dot recipient ID not equal to our recipient dot get ID. I don't know why I didn't do equal there. The IDs of the two are not equal. You can give it that. And again, we can always try out the dot equals method on this. Remember, comparing two objects next to each other. It would use the is equal, I believe it's called, or equals system. If I remember correctly, we did that in our user services, just to see what that looks like again. Now that's zoom is in my way. Out of the way, please.
Yeah, dot equals, and it can also be dot equals ignore case if you don't want to worry about the grammatical as much.
Yeah. Isn't that for strings? I thought strings. Yeah. I think we played around with it a bit. We looked at it quick under the user service, I believe. Not the user service, sorry. The was it? Yeah, this one. Or this guy. So the equals object, we say if this is the same as this, we return true. If the object is equal to null, or get class is not the same class, return false. And then if the user detail limitation user is equal to user limitation object, we do all that. So this is a way to check for that. We didn't do that with our relationships. We didn't create any equals objects. We would go with it would use the default equals system. So we would have to check on that, but I feel like it probably would work. But again, this is fine too. Just simple, just check and see if the two IDs are the same. We can be happy, right? This is where you might want to, if you know you're going to compare two items together, you might want to then check on it. But this one, sorry, it's the developer. We didn't do any developer in developer equals method. So since we didn't override the developer equal method, it may or may not work right. So we're just going to do the IDs. As long as the IDs are the same, we'll count it as the same, which should work for our purposes. So if they are not the same, if the recipient of our relationship is not the recipient logged in, return response entity new. Message response authorize status unauthorized. This person does not have the right to update this record. They are not authorized to change this relationship. Make sense? Again, this is something you could also just return the not found again if you wanted to, because right now, technically, this would tell the person this would tell hacker Matt that this relationship does actually exist. So he could try more to try to get access to be able to change it. So this is still data that Matt could try to use as a hacker. Sometimes hackers just want data. So he could try to see what else he could do with this. So you might want to just send back the not found anyway, just let them know, just the hacker thinks, oh, this isn't a valid ID. All right, never mind then. And they move on. This is a very similar concept of what goes on with WordPress logins. WordPress, if you put in a username and password and the username doesn't exist, it'll just say bad username and password. But as soon as you put in a valid username with an invalid password, it'll tell you invalid password, telling you that that username is a valid username. Now I just got to keep trying passwords, and hopefully they have a shitty password so I can brute force my way in. And they haven't set up any, and they haven't installed any sort of add-ons or packages that limit the number of logins I can try, which by default WordPress does not have. So that's something to keep in mind. So be aware that sometimes your error messages, while useful to your user, may also be doubly useful to a hacker. So sometimes you may want to obfuscate the actual problem by just sending the generic item that works for your purposes.
I listened to the Rock You episode today on Darknet Diaries, and just to hear that they were getting the SQL responses out of inserting the username and password, that was terrifying to hear, just how they scalped all that data from that site. And just, it's amazing how that changed the landscape of how password hacking and password security was checked off of that one instance.
Yeah. Again, it's one of the only, the funny thing, I love the fact that you guys keep bringing it up. It's like, it's one of the only podcasts I actually recommend every single time because, again, of the benefits that you guys learn from it and the fact that it's an entertaining way for you guys to stay in the industry and stay in the concept and stay in the realm with, again, entertaining when you can't code. So like I have other podcasts that are coding related that I listen to. They are not as entertaining because they're more actually like just talking about like industry, not the fun side of it. So I don't tend to recommend those as much because, again, I know that for a lot of you, if you're willing to listen to that, you're willing to code. This is the best thing to listen to when you can't get that motivation to code. At least you can listen to an entertaining computer science item. So it definitely makes me feel good that you guys are enjoying these episodes and learning from them. That you guys can bring up these stories are also going to be very helpful to you to be able to talk about these events during like interviews and discussions with the team and stuff, that you can use these terms of art, discuss about these concepts and learn and know about these vulnerabilities in code and be aware of them when you discuss stuff with your team. So it's very important for you guys to make sure you're watching these videos, to read the stuff and look up at these things, because you'll be more knowledgeable and you'll talk the talk in an interview. You'll sound like a developer, not a student, which is key. So great work, great stuff. All right, so on line 129, what is the logical statement we can make here? What can we state about the relationship and the origin and the recipient here? Again, these are just random statements. So I don't care if you get the right statement, just what's the logical statement, a factual statement I can make about the recipient versus in relationship, like about those things.
IDs are equal.
The IDs are equal, yes. So the IDs are equal and the relationship exists, right? We know that the relationship exists. We know that the relationship and the recipient, that the relationship belongs to the recipient and it is theirs. So the next thing we have to do is just validate the relationship status and maybe change it. So if we think about it again, the three statuses we can have is pending, approved, and blocked. What should we do on pending?
Approve it. Well, not approve.
Yeah, you're right. On approved, what should we do?
Do nothing.
Nothing. Yeah, it's already approved. Good. If blocked,
Do nothing.
nothing. Maybe report error. Report blocked. Maybe. Honestly, we could just again do nothing and just refresh the page. just send back again a success, even though it wasn't successful. Their attempt to approve was successful. They just weren't allowed to. So again, it was a valid request. We just didn't do anything. So really, we can do another if statement here and just return okay, regardless of the situation. So all you do here is do if dot get type equal to e relationship pending rel dot set type e relationship dot accepted. Go ahead and save it. Yeah. Save that relationship. And then right here, we're good to return a message saying approved. Even if it was blocked, we can say that they approved a blocked relationship, which keeps it blocked. They did approve the blocked relationship. It's still blocked though. So it's not something we have to really change. And again, we don't need to tell the user this. And this is again, that idea of like a person being pestering, maybe they're in person. And this is just, again, some of the Darknet Diary stuff and other stories I've just heard of just malicious or just horrible stories of the internet of just people having bad experiences with the internet. You have, and this was also just me dealing with the social media company that I worked with. These people, some of the owners were very aggressive to get someone to send them a request while they were demonstrating the app. Like, hey, look, you can see me, send me a request, send me a request, you know, kind of pushy. Then when they went away, I could very easily see that person be like, that was a crazy, block them and not want to deal with the owner anymore. It's like, I actually don't want to deal with that person and I don't want to. And again, though, I think about if that person did that, my owner then went and accepted it and they were told that they were blocked, they could try to go back to that person and pester them. If they think it went through fine at the time, they're going to walk away. Eventually they realize, wait, I don't see this person. Wait, I'm blocked. What happened? I'm like, well, they blocked you. Then it's like, then they can't, then it's less likely that they're going to pester that person unless they actually know them. And this is that concept of just, again, trying to protect people at the time in case of I don't know the situation that's happening, right? Again, in the beginning, you can definitely send the message. You can tell the person that they were blocked. It's up to you. It's depending on your application. I always prefer for blocking, not to let people know because I don't want to be the cause of I don't want my application's messages being the cause of drama in person. That's the way I look at it. And again, it's easier code. So, a couple of reasons. So in this case, I'm just going to send back return response entity, message response, approved, status, okay. Sound good? Main idea here is that by this line, whatever the relationship should be, it is. If it should be accepted, it is. If it was accepted, it's accepted. If it's blocked, it's still blocked. That's the idea. By this line, whatever the relationship should be is. I don't necessarily know. Logically, I can't say what the relationship is here because I have the other options. I know that at this line, it's either accepted or blocked. It's one of those two, and it is what it should be. That's as much as that's the logical statement I can make based on how this code is written. Sound good? All right. Last thing I'm gonna do is just the quick delete one because that's a simple one. Again, this is gonna be an idea like the person who can delete is probably gonna give us so how, if we're thinking about the front end, how is the person going to delete the relationship? What are they going to do physically on the site? If you had to think of a path, if you wanted to delete something from, let's say, if you wanted to remove a friendship from Facebook, what would you do?
I would want to go directly to the profile of that person and have a drop-down item that would give me the ability to eliminate that friendship.
That, or you could go to the friends list and click remove, right? And just go straight to the friends list. It's a good chance that we'll have, if the person wants to remove the friendship,
That big X. Delete.
Yep. It's likely we will have the relationship ID again, right? Not the user, but the relationship ID. Because we're trying to get rid of an existing relationship, it's very likely that our front end can send us that relationship ID. even if we want, like, even if you think about what Taylor said, and we're on the actual profile, and we see that X, in order for us to see that X, then our front end needs to know that the relationship exists. And so we probably sent it the relationship ID as well. We sent it that relationship so that our front end system knows, hey, there is a relationship between these people. So again, I would have the relationship ID. Otherwise, I wouldn't be able to show that remove friendship button without knowing that the friendship exists. So again, the removal will have the relationship ID. So same as before, we could do at delete mapping, and then to be able to test all these. We'll call this remove, just so it looks nice. Move slash ID, and I lost somebody. I see a chat though, so they probably said that they were leaving. Let's find out. Yep, view list of friends. Yep, Nick got it right. There we go. Nathan said, be right back, getting dinner. Okay. Unless he's still in here. I think, yeah, Nathan's still here, so that's not who dropped. All right, we'll find out. Delete mapping. Love it. Response entity. Response. Class variable, long. Most of this, we're probably just going to do the rest from above. We're going to grab in the user, the current user, recipient relationship. We'll grab all this. So we'll grab all this, and we'll discuss about one more thing. So let's grab these. Yep. Put that in there. Shrink this so we can get more code screen. This over there. Okay. Now here's the question here though. So who can remove a mapping? Is it the recipient or the originator? Who can remove a relationship?
Either person.
Thank you. And I asked that as a either or, but the answer is both. Yes, both people can remove it. So this variable here isn't really reflective of the situation here, right? The person is neither the recipient or the originator. They are simply a developer in this case. They are a developer in this case. They are neither the recipient or the originator per se. They are a developer. And for this, all you have to do is confirm that the developer is either the originator or the recipient in order to be able to delete this record, right? As long as they are one of the people in the relationship, they are authorized to remove this relationship. Unlike above, where we only wanted the recipient approving, the recipient or the originator has the ability to remove a relationship. That makes sense? Cool, so let's run that logic then. So you know what I just did there. I did anything, so keep going. But here, if rel dot get originator dot get ID is not equal to, we'll do and on this. No, not rel, sorry. Developer dot get ID and rel dot get recipient get ID is not equal to developer dot get ID. So this says if the developer ID is not equal to either one of these, then we're dead. As long as one of these is true, then they are good. Sorry, as long as one of these are false, sorry. As long as one of these are false, that means that they are okay. So if they are not the originator and they are not the recipient, they are unauthorized. But if they are the originator, they are authorized. If they are the recipient, they are authorized. Make sense?
Absolutely.
Cool. So in this case, we'll just do the same new response status, response entity, message, authorize, status, unauthorized. Line 75 tells us what? What do we know now about the relationship and developer?
If they are either or.
That again, the relationship exists and that the developer is part of that relationship. So they are allowed to remove this relationship. They are someone who can. So in that case, let's think about it for a second. In this case, we have we have pending, approved. Oop, hello, John's back. Cool. And blocked. If the relationship is pending, what should we do?
So this is deleting, so we're removing. If it's pending,
Mhm.
we'll delete it.
If it's approved, what should we do?
Delete it.
Good. If it is blocked, what should we do? Now,
Why not delete it?
Nothing.
yeah, it's
No.
tricky, right? We might want to do something with, because we don't know who is the blocker, do we, technically? We don't know if this developer is the one that did the blocking. And that's something we haven't really thought about, have we?
Yeah, we would want to do nothing because we don't want them to be unblocked.
Right. We would need some sort of unblock route. And even then, now I don't know if you noticed it, if anyone noticed before, but we haven't really set up anything that helps us to know who did the blocking, did we? We just kind of took whatever the relationship is and just blocked it and just turned it to block. Whether if Travis sent the request initially and Nick was supposed to accept it, then Travis hit the block button, that means Nick shouldn't be able to remove it. Only Travis should be able to remove it. And it's a TN pending relationship. But that was TN block. Let's say Travis sent the request, Nick decided to block it. It's still a TN blocked. We don't know who to hit the block, do we? Yep, I think I saw Rich. Yep, he nodded no. He shook his head no. Exactly right. Yeah, we don't know. In the way we're storing our data right now, there's nothing telling us who did the block. And so we might want to think about later on in a different version that maybe we say a block should always be saved as originator, recipient type. Should always be, the originator should be the blocker and this be the blockee. Blocked. We should always have it as that. We should always later on set it up where the blocker is the originator. And so in this situation, if Travis sent the request to Nick and Nick hit block, what we should actually do in that case is delete the original record, create a new record of Nick Travis blocked later on. Right now, we don't need to worry about that. Right now, we're not going to add the ability in our tools to unblock, because not all, I know that not all websites, when they first come out, have an ability to unblock. Back before not that I like to admit it, but when I was, after my relationship and before I met my wife, I was playing around with some of the dating systems, and you can block people, and I couldn't, on some of them, you could not find a place to unblock. So Taylor has a question. What's up?
Yeah, so in this kind of stream of thinking about just seeing those interactions, would that be something like in the database creating some kind of a message log that's tracking that specific user interaction somewhere just
Definitely
in the
can.
database?
Yeah.
Okay.
And a lot of companies do that. Again, we don't really have the time to really dig in deep on analytics and how to track and to have a history of how the data changes. But a lot of bigger companies do have that kind of stuff in there where they will have a logging system and they'll track the changes and they'll keep track of how things, how like the relationship went and how long it took and stuff like that. They'll track tons of data. So as a developer, very unlikely for you to have to worry about it. A lot of systems, there'll be tools that are built in to automatically do that, that your code won't have to do it, that they'll have like a SQL monitoring tool that will track the changes and create a database itself. Like that's another system will be in charge of that. They'll have like the analytics team that will do that stuff and the data collection team. So unless you're part of that team, you don't have to worry about it. And if you do, you'll learn about it. 100%, yeah, companies like that. I know Facebook for a fact tracks that kind of data because that's their whole services data. So they will definitely track how long did it take you to respond? How long do you average take to respond? Are you someone that responds immediately or not? And if you normally don't respond immediately, hey, this person, you responded immediately. We've maybe ranked this friendship higher than the others and stuff like that. Maybe we should show this person's posts more often to you and stuff. Yeah, maybe when you click block, maybe it'll include some of the previous messages from both of you to see if the reason you hit block was one of their previous messages. Your friend's previous messages maybe caused you to hit the block. Can they figure out why you blocked them? Because I can guarantee, like, yeah, I'm sure if they notice, let's say, Travis, you blocked a friend and they suddenly notice that the most recent post from your friend was a racist statement, they were like, oh, we need to make sure this person definitely cares about that kind of stuff, and we want to make sure that they don't see that. Or they made a homophobic remark, and like, oh, this person is LGBTQ positive. That's good for us to know and something we want to be aware of. Those are things that Facebook would benefit from. And so 100% they kind of track that kind of stuff. We are not going to cover that in our class though. That is deep stuff to get into. So tracking that much data, but like I said,
but just opening up the E relationship, and by adding like blocker and block E, we can actually incorporate those in here as knowing that on the who did what, right?
Kind of, but that would also complicate our searches for blocks because we have to search for two different types.
No,
we want to keep our type to just blocked. What we could do again, and again, that's the thing, that's true. There's multiple ways we could do it. You're 100% right. We could, we have the originator and recipient, our type could tell us which one it is by having blocked. We do blocked O, meaning the originator is the blocker. We could also have blocked R as the recipient being the blocker. And so that would benefit us, but that means we'd have to do two separate searches for all the blocked options to know that we shouldn't show this person, that they shouldn't be able to see them. This is why I also said that, yeah, we could have it be blocked, and we could just say, hey, we just have to have a pattern, something we know that is as long as that our blocked type follow a specific pattern. That's what I was saying, is that our pattern would be the originator, and the recipient pattern is the originator is the blocker, and the recipient is the blockee, the person who was blocked. Blockered, blockee is the blockee. Again, you could switch that. You could make the recipient the blocker, and the originator the blockee. So that's something you get to decide. The main thing is just having that pattern that is repetitious, so we can then run checks for it and say, okay, if we do bring in the unblock route, we can do a check and say, oh, is our logged in user the originator of the block? If yes, then they can remove this block. If they are not, they cannot remove this block because they are the person that was blocked. That's the key there. By having the pattern, we can then use logical systems. But to do that, we would have to update some of our previous routes. That's all. That's why we're not adding the unblock feature to our application at the moment, because we have not done anything to make sure we know who the blocker is. Currently in our system, we don't know who's blocking who. We don't really care right now. That's an extra stuff we don't want to get into. So for the moment, as soon as it's blocked, you're permanently blocked. It's a permanent block. And just a heads up, Taylor, your hand's still up. I don't know if you want to remove it. If you still have a question. No worries. I probably should click and remove that, but I always forget.
Getting
I
used
thought
to
it went
these
down
first
automatically
reactions.
after a bit.
What's that, Sergio?
I thought it went down like automatically after a second.
No, I click it usually, but you guys on the screen, so I have to go over there and click it. And because I waited so long, I wasn't sure if Taylor re-raised his hand. So I wanted to double check instead of just click removing it. I'm supposed to remove it.
I appreciate that answer. That definitely helped me with the MVP of my project to not include something right away.
Good. I like that idea. I like helping you guys reduce your workload. That's actually something I prefer more. Would I love to see your applications be larger? Of course, but the first thing is just get something basic. So the more I can do in the beginning to reduce your workload, I'm happy about that. All right, let's actually build this now. So pending, delete, approve, delete, block, do nothing. So all we're gonna do here is if rel.getType equal to blocked key relationship. Sorry. We will just return response entity. I have to do new. In this case, again, we're just going to tell them, yep, it's the relationship's been removed because you're not going to see that person anyway. So it's blocked, so you're not going to see them. So we can just say, yep, friendship relationship removed. Response entity. Response. In that case, if I think about it, we're just going to tell them that it was successful. We should probably check for not blocked, delete it, and then return this on the bottom. So yeah, I have a better option. So Alt Shift, move that outside the if statement. Yes. Okay. And if our relationship is not blocked, repository, delete. Oh, yeah. And so you can give it, if you have the entity that was pulled or the entry, the relationship that was pulled from the database, you can just give it that item in order to delete it. You only need to use delete by ID is if you haven't pulled the item before. Since we've already pulled it in order to check for authorization, we can just give it back the exact same item and it can delete. We don't have to do rel.id. Sound good? All right, and that should be everything we need for our relationships. Why is it still angry at me? Did I forget a semicolon somewhere? Here. No. In our, which one is this one? In our block item, we forgot to return after the save. Probably did the same thing above, so we didn't get, we're hitting the end of our function without a return. So response entity, message response. That was okay. That looks fine, actually. Yeah, that looks fine. Good. Let's go ahead and run it again, make sure it works. Update to LJ, great. It has started. Let's get Postman opened. It's been a little while. Later. Okay. Okay, let's do that. Come on. Yeah, happy. Check mark down there. Good. My workspace. Cool. Okay. Not sure what that was about. Host. 80, right? Yeah, 8080. API. We got to sign in. probably also sign up another person. Now I think about it, I don't think I have a lot of developers, but sign in, go to our body, raw, JSON. Name. You got 20. Use test. Dang it. I know.
I think you're sending the wrong kind of
Off.
request type.
Yep. Also off. In. Yeah, it should be post, I believe. There it goes. That
Uh-oh.
tab. We'll do authorization bearer token. Get the developers, so just so we can see who's there. Host API. Hello. Developers. Go. This is all Cliff 20. So I'm gonna have one of you guys actually register for me so that I can befriend them instead of befriending myself, which is sad. So post. Yep. We'll actually use we should probably use the React system to create another user action now that I think about it, because I want to make sure we have a developer profile. Sign up won't create developer profile, so then having to do 2 different routes for that. So let's do that quick. We open up demo. Again, if you have a bunch of people on your system and you don't mind befriending yourself, you don't have to do this part. I'm just gonna add one of you guys there to be my friend. Befriend Cliff 20, you know, the 20th clone of myself. npm run. Oh, sorry, npm start. So who wants to befriend the 20th clone? Don't you all jump. Thanks, Taylor.
Oh, okay.
You beat
I
ya.
was saying something every time I muted.
Test. 12 now, so 12. Submit. Good, you're in. Nice. Go back to Postman now and do another pull of the developers. Go all the way down to the bottom, we should see there's Taylor. There. So we'll go back to our application now for a quick second. We look at how to add a person. We're going to go ahead and do /API/relationships add and then the ID of the developer. So that means I'm going to use developer ID 9. Do here, I'll sign up again. Put in our authorization token. Our token, there it is. Good. /relationships. Add 9. Those are the post request, right? Yeah, post mapping. Good. Send, we'll see success. Good. Now, so do we want to test if Taylor was gonna send me another post, or just the good normal process where Taylor go ahead and approves it first? Just to make sure that the normal process works. We can also test the removal too. What do you guys
Yeah.
think?
I'd say start with the normal process first.
So let's go ahead and do another sign in over here then. So pop back to the first one, sign in. Go ahead and switch ch12 to Taylor. Test, yep. Send that. Here's the new token for Taylor. Different from mine. Copy that. Authorization, error token, paste. Local host relationships. We double check our item. We see that it is /approve, right? Yeah, /approve, and then the ID of the relationship. We don't know that yet. So we're going to go to the database to look at it because we have no get relationships route yet. We definitely want to put that later. We have none yet. So terminal quick. SQL. It should be number one, but yeah. Select from relationships. Sorry. There it is. See, pending between, I'm guessing that's ch12, recipient ID 9. So we double check the developer list from our postman, which is all the way over here apparently. ch12 is ID 8, so we do see that. That looks accurate. The originator is ch12 and the recipient is number 9 and it's pending. Before we do this, actually, I'm gonna go ahead and try to approve it myself. So I'm a hacker. I somehow got the ID number 1, so I now know the relationship ID is ID 1. Don't ask how I knew that. I just took a guess. I'm gonna try to approve my own item and make Taylor my friend against his wishes.
Man, I really don't like Cliff that much.
Let's go ahead and grab my Vera token back again, actually. Go here, switch that to mine. So it's me trying to approve it. I'm going to try to approve relationship 1. Send. Oh, it's post. Send. I get back unauthorized, the message unauthorized, and a status code. So we got exactly what we expected. Let's go ahead now and put Taylor's back in, Taylor's code back in. So, copy. Paste. Send that. We get approved. Hop back to SQL, up arrow and enter. You see it's accepted. It's good. We'll go ahead now have him remove it. Switch that to delete. Send. Success. We up arrow and enter. We see that record no longer exists. So far, so good. So our standard process of I send Taylor a request. I cannot approve it. I have to wait for Taylor. Taylor go ahead and hits the approve, and it gets approved. Taylor then goes in and removes the friendship because I asked him to test my system, not because he doesn't like me. And so he removes the friendship to test my system on for me because we're developers, and sees that it goes away. So the standard behavior works. Let's test some other things quick. Let's see if, yeah, I send a request and then Taylor sends a request. Does it approve that? So relationship.add, I'm going to go ahead and do this again. This is me again. You see the success. I'm the originator. There it is, pending again. If I try to send it a second time, I forgot we did that. Nice try, be patient. So we have our nice message telling me, hey, it's already good, wait for it. If I take Taylor's Vera token, put that here, click send, we get success. But if we check the database, we'll see it is not pen. Oh no. Wait, that's not right. He's created a pending request with himself. We have a bug.
Uh-oh.
Let's go see what happened. Let's see why did that happen. Let's walk through that. So we need to go through our code to see why when I did the where is it?
I have my
This
own
one right here,
grandpa.
add. Hold on. On the add, we pulled originator and recipient. So this should have pulled 9 and recipient with me. Oh no, wait, he did befriend himself, didn't he? Yeah, he did. That was my bad. I made Tyler befriend himself. We didn't
Hey,
check that.
I'm just glad I like myself to friend myself.
User error.
Impressive. And I guess we could always leave that in our system and say, you know what, you can be narcissistic. Friend yourself. You can love yourself. So again, just to see a way to clean that up, we're just going to go ahead and do delete.
Sir, are you sure you didn't try to friend yourself? No.
Quiet. I was having an off day, man.
3 equals 3. God dang it. What was it again? I don't think I need to start right. Delete from.
Just for fun, can you see if you could, I was gonna say, just for fun, can you see if you can delete yourself through the postman?
Oh yeah, totally. You're right. I totally could have done that. Yeah, well, too late. Let's do this right now. Let's go ahead and have Taylor add me, number 8, as a friend, actually. So send again. We do get the success again. If we check the database this time, we see that that pending request turned to accepted, just as we wanted it to do. Last one, I'll go ahead and let Tyler block me. The first over, instead, yeah, let's not remove it. Let's just go ahead and block the already existing approved request, which should create the block, which should change it to block. So go ahead and grab his bearer token, make sure I have that. Copy. We'll do localhost, relationships, approve 1. We'll do
Block myself.
block me. You could technically, yeah, right now in the way our code is written, you could block yourself. So there's a couple things you need to update in our code. Make sure that the ID in the URL is not your ID. Something we did not check on. So a little bug fixing there for your code. We're not going to do that together, but that is something to be aware of for your projects. That is going to be a post again. So post block me, number 8. This is block authorization, back to Pharaoh token. Which is the SG. Yep, that's yours. We'll send that in, blocked. If I go over here and check, the same record is there. So again, this was Taylor sending it. So if this didn't exist, Taylor would have been the originator and I would have been the recipient. Because the inverse existed, we just blocked the inverse and then create a new one. So our system works as expected. Seems to be working fine. And just to confirm, if I then try to remove that relationship now, so over here, remove, we gotta remove number 2 because this is the second one now, if I remember correctly, right? Yes, this is the second relationship now. So I try to remove relationship 2. It will say success. However, it is not. Our system seems to work, right? Cool. One last thing I want to make sure we do first now is just to create the process to pull our friends. That's the last thing we want to do. Pull our friendships together or pull the friend listings. So how we're going to do that is I'm going to make sure I'm going to have Tyler befriend one of the other cliffs, and then we can pull Tyler's friends. That way he has both a normal friend request where he's the recipient and then another one where he's the originator. And that way, because we need to be able to pull both of those. I'm also going to update, well, now I just realized the current one is blocked. I'm just going to delete that record though. So that way I can send him another request and we can be friends again.
Yeah, good for Tyler to be friends with Cliff.
Yeah. Would be good. And unfortunately for you, you blocked the creator of the site who has SQL access. It's not going to stick. Wait a minute, he blocked me? No, he didn't.
See, what had happened was
ID equals 1. 2. There we go. Done. Now I'm safe. That's been removed now, so we can redo that now. So start relationship, good. It's all clean. before we do that, let's think for a second how this is going to work. This will be the last thing we do today. Break, weekend, long weekend, I just found out. Clipboard. All right, so where'd the whiteboard go? Don't see the whiteboard. There it is. Weird. Here. All right, so if we think about how our database goes, we have our, we have the Travis-Nick relationship as, let's say, approved. We'll say we have Travis and Evan as approved. We'll have Freddie and Travis approved. We'll have Matt and Travis as pending. Not to pick on Travis, but your T is just the one we've been using. So, and hopefully this I'm hoping that the consistency benefits. So, and then last but not least, we'll have
So popular.
well, you're not gonna like this one, Travis and Sergio as blocked. You guys can argue about who blocked you. So.
Sergio definitely blocked me.
There you go.
I would do that.
So nice.
Classic Sergio.
And so if we think about this,
No.
if we were trying to pull Travis's friend list right now, who should show up?
Everyone.
Really?
except
Everyone's
for
his friend
Sergio.
right now?
He approved.
Everyone except for
It'd just
Sergio.
be the first three of the
Yeah.
approval.
Right? Yeah, just Nick, Evan, and Freddie are actually the ones that are confirmed friendships. Matt is still pending.
Don't
So
show up.
what's that?
Pending doesn't show up.
No, because you're not
Actually,
actually connected yet. That's not your friend list.
Yeah,
It's
not like
pending.
friendship, but like when you in notifications, usually like on Facebook, it tells you like the pending.
True, but again, we could I'm just saying if we want to know who our active friends are. So we just want to know who the active friends are. And so these are them. We would probably have a separate page for showing the pending friend requests. Now, yes, later on we can have it where it shows both, but
I don't have
we
pending
want to be
like
able to,
that.
yeah, we want to make sure that we pull in two separate lists though. For our front end though, we would need to make sure that our front end can differentiate between a pending and an approved so that it shows differently. So what we would probably do is do two polls, one for our friend list and one poll for our pendings. We would send those both down to the friend page and make sure we just then display the pending first where they can hit the approve button, and then the second one as well. And then the other ones would show up below saying, hey, these are your actual friends. But yeah, for now, I'm just asking who are the actual confirmed friends when we want to show his active friend list. So these three should be the ones showing up. So now we need to think, how do we pull this information? So we know so Travis goes to the page, we get Travis's ID. So we have Travis is the logged in user. So he's user ID. And so he becomes developer. As we do. So we know how that comes. So we do developer find by user ID. So he's in our code. This is what we normally have. How do we make sure we pull all three of these? So we have our repository. What's that?
Can't you just find by the type by approval? Can't you just find by approval on the table?
Could do, yeah, we could do a find all by type approved. Is that enough?
No, we also need to know who the current user is to
Good, thank
find
you. Yes.
them.
So find by. Here's the trick, though. Which one of these we can't if we do find by originator ID and type. What's that going to give us?
All the friend requests that the current user has sent that are approved, not all of them that
So-
they have.
We get just these two, right? We just get Nick
Correct.
and Evan right now. So we then also need the find all by recipient ID and type, what would that give us? Who we getting there? The same approved, and Travis as the recipient now.
Mhm.
So which people am I getting now?
Just Freddie.
Correct. Freddie. So now if I did both of these, I would get all of them and I could merge them. I forgot to check on this, dang it. The question is if there's a way to do like an or and an and. So we want to be like, hey, if the originator ID or recipient ID is this number and the type is approved. So as long as the ID is one of those two, we can grab it, the originator ID. What we'll do today though is this concept of merging the two. So we'll do two pulls and we'll merge them together.
Mhm.
We'll do that.
Can we also, if like in MySQL, I think you can have like a case system where
Yes.
you can get both at the same time with one query.
Yes. Again, though, I'm trying to do this without using SQL. Remember that. I'm
Alright.
not teaching SQL.
Oh, you can do that, right?
Oh, of course, 100%.
Alright.
You can definitely do conditionals in that. And you could also just do the two polls and merge the two and merge the results, of course. So you can, because both of these polls would do two separate tables, you can then do a join on ID to then bring them together. Or just pull them together because of the same results. So there is definitely a way that you could do a single SQL query to do both of these polls, and then the results would be merged together and sorted. We're not going to do that today. And again, I'm going to double check the function naming conventions to see if I could do originator ID or this and that. So
I'm confused. If the current ID is the originator ID, isn't he though?
we need both though, originator and recipient. Because again, we need to be able to pull all three of these items. If we just search by, if we do find by originator ID and type, with Travis being the originator and approved being the type, we are only going to get Nick and Evan because he's the originator here. We won't get Freddie Travis because Travis is not the originator.
Because he wasn't the originator,
Right.
Travis is now the recipient.
Exactly. And now you're going to see why the AB method that we've been using has a little bit of a flaw. We have to do both of these polls. We get both. If we're doing the ABBA, we would have the TN and T approved. We'd have the ET approved. We'd have the TF approved, the TM pending, and the ST blocked. So we'd have all those, and so in a single find all by originator ID and type would find all three. We would get this one would pull, this one pull, and this one would pull, would give us all three friends. So this is where the ABBA type is a little beneficial now because we can get all the friends in a single pull. See that?
Yeah, but could you have set it up the way that like Travis is the user and he has these recipient IDs as friends? And so I have to just look at his record and I can see all the IDs.
How the database works though, that's the key. It's how the database works.
Yeah.
Right. And again, even in our developer record, we have the friends and inverse friends. Remember? Even in our developer model, we have relationships and inverse relationships. So
Are
we
you
have both
highlighting
together.
your code right now?
Dang it, you're right.
I'm still gonna go look at my code just to look at it. I'm like, okay, I'll just follow along.
In our developer model, we had the relationships on line 61 and inverse relationships on line 78.
Oh, yeah.
Same thing. We needed that as well to make sure we have both friendship types. Back to whiteboard for a second. Make sure we finish. I think we're pretty much done here though. But the overall gauge there, the overall thing to point out though is yes, in order to pull all of our friends, we need to do these two polls, but these two methods sound like the valid methods that we need. So let's go ahead and add these to our repository if they aren't there already. So share back to the code. And we'll do a get friendships. So let's go to the relationship repository. We are. We don't have that. We have recipient. Oh, here we go. We do have find all by recipient ID and type. So we do have that one already. Find all by recipient ID and type. Let's just add the other one now. List relationship. I was going to do this actually. I want to change these to sets, actually, these two. Pretty sure I can do that. Set. So I believe it'll return a collection, is what JPA repository does. It returns a collection, so you can choose the collection we want. And because it's better, I think it's going to be better for us to merge two sets than to merge two lists. So find all by originator. Key relationship. All right, so those there. Now let's go ahead and create the, and that apparently I spelled it wrong. Oh. Okay. Yep, that looks right. All right, originator. Okay, cool. Originator ID and type. Good. That's correct. Let's go back to our relationship controller now. And we're going to do a bottom. I'm going to have it here, but again, next week, I'll try to show you guys how to pull it from the developer record instead. For now, we're going to pull it from relationship for the moment. So at get mapping. That's not right. Public. This is going to return a set of relationships. Get we'll go ahead and get our logged in user. So grab this code right here, and we're going to also pull it from the repository of the developer. So let's grab these lines here. And this is where we could benefit from like a user service. Would be very useful. That's fine. Or a developer service, sorry. Do that. That's fine. Yeah. 1 second. There we go. All right, that's what I can do. Hold on. Just wrong. I'm going to do a entity bracket set relationship. There we go. Actually, no, we're going to do a question mark there because we also want to be able to return a message as well. So question mark. There we go. So this allows us again to return a response entity with a message response in it, or a response entity with our list. So we can return with the question mark here, we can return whatever data type we want as the response entity data type. We're not bound to a specific one. All right, that's what I was remembering. Drawing a blank on. There we go. Good there. Now that we have the developer, let's go ahead and pull those relationships. Now, keep in mind, this is not going to actually get us the friend names. It's just going to get us the developer ID of our friendships. So we're going to get the relationships. Like I said, next week, we can show how to actually pull the developers themselves via those two relationships we added to the developer model. So let's do this. So developer. First thing we're going to do is do
By just getting like the developer, by just putting the developer ID into the table, that that saves data on the table, and we can always, I mean, from the back end or the front end, we can just get that name right out of there, so we don't have to waste,
Sure.
we don't have to waste like string space on a table for
Mhm.
like putting people's names on it.
We won't. It's not using string space. It's still just using the idea. It's just what JPA will do for us.
No,
The
no, I'm
JPA
saying
is
about
nice.
just writing the developer's name to the table and just directly instead of just, using just the ID.
Okay.
Mm.
Yeah, relationships. So now I'm going to pull a set of relationships by doing the repository dot find all by originator ID and type. Do developer.getID, comma, the relationship type accepted. I'm going to do the same thing with the inverse. Yep. And rels repository find all by recipient ID and type. Developer.getID relationship dot accepted. Now we just want to merge the two. So does anyone remember in Java how do we merge two collections? Or how do we add a set to an existing set?
Add all, dot add all.
We do that. Let's see. RELs dot add all. Hey, look at that. And it accepts a collections of a type that extends relationship. So it must be a collection that has something that's something binding to relationships inside of it. So that is it. Nice job, Matt. Yep. We do inverse rels. So it's going to go ahead and add those all. And in case somehow one of the inverse rels are identical to the rels, it should bring them in anyway. Last but not least, we're going to go ahead and return response entity new rels, comma, HTTP status. Okay. Those aren't valid words, but I don't like typing the word relationship because I always get it wrong. So deal with it, IntelliJ. Does this code make sense? What's happening here?
Yeah.
One downside is we're not going to get any sort of sorting. We wouldn't be able to do any sort of sorting with this by doing it this route without having to do some sort of dot sort through Java, which would take some Java processing power to do. Do be aware of that. So if you did want to sort them, you'd either have to sort them front end or back end on the Java and have the Java system sort. Just be aware of that. You could, of course, return the results of this sorted, to make the Java sorting easier on itself. Make it less, make it pretty decently sorted already, but no matter what, they're not going to be able to just be added onto the end because you'll have alphabetical order here up to the end and then alphabetical order here. Which if we look at, I'll have to put whiteboard back up in a second. Let's see if that actually matters in this. Work for 2 seconds. Yeah, so see how N, E, and then F, this is exactly how it would look in this. So we didn't sort, so N, E, and then F. If we did do sorts on both, we would get what the results would be. We would get EN on our first poll, and then F would be in the second. And when we added them, it would still be technically in order. These two would be in order, and then the remaining would be in order from that point. There'd be 2 items that are sorted, just stuck one on one. So it still wouldn't be perfect. We'd have to sort the end result as well. But potentially, depending on what sorting mechanism Java uses, pre-sorting might make it better and more and faster, but just something to be aware of. This is where, again, Freddie's SQL skills that he's been learning might benefit him because he could have SQL sorted after he pulls the 2 and merges them. So he could use his SQL knowledge on that. Anyway, back to the code.
Yeah, you can select all from the relationship where you
Yep.
can put 2 IDs. It's
I
really
know.
easy.
Yeah, I want to do it via JPA, not versus SQL. If anyone wants to get the SQL script from Freddie, go for it. But I'm trying to do JPA sole.
Yeah, I want to find out how it
Yes.
is in JPA because
Yeah.
it should use something like an or
Yeah,
some keyword.
I'm fairly confident there it is, but I didn't look it up again, and I'm not familiar with the or with multiple conditionals in the function name yet. I got to do more research on multiple conditionals in a function name. How does it handle it right? And make sure you organize it correctly. That's all. I'm pretty confident it's possible. Just again, how do you handle multiple conditions in a function name? So, something to look at later. If anyone, by the way, of course, if anyone finds it out what the name of the method would be, feel free to share it in Slack. But I'm very familiar with having to do this for the Mongo stuff I had to do, so that's why I'm very familiar with this. So that's all. That's why I'm covering it. I had to deal with friends and inverse friendships, so it is something I'm very familiar with. Let's see, so we got that all in. They're added now. If we go back to Postman for a quick second, actually you have to reboot it first, of course. Reboot my program. Make sure that it does like those two methods I added. It is happy. Let me go ahead and send my request to, or Taylor's going to send me a request this time. I'm going to send him a request. Conversation. Send. Good. Check the database quick, just make sure it's there.
It felt like a tree set might have automatically sorted, but I don't think it does.
There's our friendship. So this is Taylor befriending me. So now I want to make sure someone else befriends Taylor. So that way Taylor has the two friends. Just a quick one though. We will go over here quick and change from block to, what was it, friends? I did. I think that's what I did. Yes, friends. Good. So that we do see there it is. We see the one friendship between 9 and 8. And if we wanted to actually, something I'm going to do quick, go to the relationship model. That's not this.
I think I found the resource.
One second.
All the stuff.
Let's make sure, let's get this. Oh yeah, I know that the documentation for it, but again, if you figure out the method, go for it. But I don't know, we're already at 8:51, so I don't really have time to go through it and figure it out live. If I go quick here, I'm gonna do quick is add to the JSON include properties, the name. So that, with the program. Oh, we got a little more data from the relationship. There it goes. Send again, and we'll see Taylor with Cliff 20. Let's see if we can log into Cliff 13. I'm able to grab that one. Add Taylor. Yeah. Add 9. Yeah, as the recipient. Right. Okay, good. That in. Send. Says, put it back here quick. Check it quick. See. Yes. So someone else is now attempting to befriend Taylor. If we pull the friendships again, we will not see the pending. So the pending is not there yet. If we approve, this is Taylor, number 5. And that, allowed, I'm still on delete, switch that to post. Approved. Back to Taylor and click send. We will see, there it is. Taylor through Cliff and Cliff with Taylor. So Taylor is now befriended 2 Cliff clones. And no, they will not have with code. Unfortunately, the cloning did not give them that skill. Got something, Freddie?
No, Cliff.
Oh, I thought it was, for some reason Freddie's box popped in when you said that. What's up, Jim?
I posted it there, but I think if you change your sets to tree sets, it might sort them out automatically.
I think we're right on that. I do remember that now. I don't, then again, I don't know if they sort based on an actual alphabetical order, but they sort based on how you enter them.
Yeah, I saw it. That
Yeah.
showed it showed a setting where it actually does sort them alphabetically, but I wonder how it does with records and things. That's my thing.
That's not right. Tree set.
I went to the other one there too.
Yeah, they do. I know the tree sets are sorted, or they maintain their order, but I don't know if you can tell them. Can I sorted set, new tree
You
set?
can use a comparator. It says up there.
You can. There it is.
The
Yeah, right
elements
here.
are ordered using their natural order or by comparator.
So new empty tree set sorted according to the specified comparator. So we would have to make sure that we did create a comparator for our relationship entity, which we have not created. So you would need to
One
create a
of them-
comparator for it.
One of the Java, one of the things they showed, like just adding strings, it actually sets them into alphabetical. But yeah. But that's just one of the ones I just thought of without using SQL, that this might work.
Oh yeah, no, this would definitely help out because, but again, it would be in Java would be doing it. I would need to check on what the, oh, here we go. This implementation provides a guaranteed log n time cost for basic operations, which is not bad. Log n is not bad. This is not exponential. So I do still think that SQL probably would be overall a higher performance, but not by much. This is actually definitely would be good if you figure out how to use comparables, comparators. We have not gotten into that, so that's something that you guys can dig into on your own. But yeah, this would be a way. So sets are just the lists. As you add them, they sort. I mean, they add them, but they don't guarantee the same order. And so if you were then to iterate through the tree of the set, there's no guarantee that the first item you added is the first item you'll get. That's the main thing to keep in mind with sets. They don't maintain the order as you add them. They just maintain the uniqueness of the set. The tree set, on the other hand, will maintain order and will try to keep it in the order based on the natural ordering. So as you add it, they stay in that order. So as you add them, if you iterate, the first item you added is the first item there. The last item you added is the last item. And then you have other ways of deciding how the tree set will organize as you add things to it, while still also, again, keeping uniqueness. This would be the extra tool there. Very cool.
And if you wanted to, if you really wanted to do a list, I mean, using a linked list actually controls the order how the list is being generated. So I'm just giving that to people if they're thinking about if they wanted to have a controlled list. But anyways,
overall, main thing to keep in mind is this: we were able to pull our friendships, and we have both now, not just one or the other. We have both of our friendships; they are merged in. There's more to do. Again, I'm just scratching the surface of a lot of this stuff and scratching the surface of friendships. Since some of you are doing social media accounts, friendships and connections and following is something you might want to have. I know there's a good chance, Matt, you might want to add some sort of friendship system to yours, or at least some sort of like buddy system for those who are interested in the same albums. You might benefit from this, and others as well. So this is, again, part of the reason why I was interested in offering to showcase a friendship system. Is it a bit more complex than some of the stuff we worked on? Yes, but at the same time, hopefully it's helping us to think about your projects and better plan your projects and see these other types of relationships that exist and how do we utilize them. So like I said, Tuesday, we're gonna do one more week of this thing. Now that we have the half week next week. So we'll use this last week to finish up our relationship system by pulling the actual developer ID. Well, actually, no, this is perfectly fine. Pulling some, we could probably actually just use this for our friend list, actually, because it has the name and the ID of the person, so then we can click on it and then pull it. What we're gonna do next, though, is actually go to our front end now, create a friend list. We can see it and be able to click on a developer. So we're actually able to pull all the developers, click on a developer, and click on the add friend. We'll see how much next week we can actually get to of the friendship system. We'll try to add as much of it as we can. The benefit of this system is that we shouldn't need to do any more forms. This should all just be pulling and displaying data. All right. And so we'll just see how that works. And the end goal with it being able to pull a single entity that we talked about before. So I know one of the, I think it was Travis, I don't remember, but someone was asking about, someone definitely was struggling with like, yeah, pulling a single entity down from our back end, because on our front end, we've been pulling lists every single time. This time we're able to pull a list of developers. We'll click on a single developer to look at their profile. We'll have some placeholder text where the about me would be, just so we can show that different screen. And then, yeah, the we'll be able to add the follow button to that, or friend add friend button versus blocked versus pending and all those fun things. Sound good? Cool. Like I said, for the break, your big focus is working on your personal projects, adding these features that we've been working on to them, to the car app or your personal project. As long as you're working on one of those, I am happy. I will keep an eye on your, for the previous assignment, I'm going to keep an eye on that repo there, unless you plan to work on a different one. Let me just put another assignment so you can post the one you're working on if you decide to work on the different one. If you worked on the car app last time, you're going to work on the personal app this time, but it's fine. If you, yeah, I'll figure that out. Is anyone planning to work on something different this weekend versus what they did last weekend? That we did this. And I will just use the previous assignment to monitor it. All right. What I will do actually is put, no, actually, no, I'm going to post another assignment because I think I remember correctly. I asked you guys to post a 2-word or 2-sentence blurb about what you did, if I'm correctly now. By the way, I forgot to check on that recently. I checked on it that day, but I didn't check recently to see how many.
What's the question?
What?
What was the question?
Hold on.
Okay.
Someone else? Someone else has a question or me?
That was me. I was
Your
asking.
question.
Oh, sorry.
What did you ask about for this weekend? What was the question?
With the project you worked on last week when I did the project progress, you're supposed to share the link and submit which one you worked on.
Oh, yeah,
Which-
yep, okay.
Oh, I gotta clean up the classroom, so a bunch of you here. So just throwing it out there, by the way. Manny, Carlos, Connor. Colin wasn't here really yet much, so I'm not gonna call him out. Emilio, Michael, Richard, who's not here, Richie's. You guys did not submit anything for the last week, so just be aware of that. That this week I'll be looking for something. So I'm going to create another version. I'm going to copy this assignment. It'll be a second version of it. So it'll be called part 2. Again, post the GitHub link of the project you work on this weekend. You got to work on something this weekend. Got to pick one to work on. Thank you. I'm starting to see some pop in. Perfect. And then again, if you read the instructions quick, I did ask for a 2 to 3 sentence blurb about the progress you made. Unfortunately, I realized I put that under 11-12. So some of you guys, so 14, you guys may not have seen that. Yeah. So yeah, just post the GitHub link of the project you work on over the weekend, and then a 2 to 3 sentence blurb about what did you work on, what did you build, what did you add, what has changed over this weekend. Sound good?
Mm-hmm.
Well, Cliff, I don't think I have access to cohort 12 classroom yet.
What? Seriously?
Yeah, I tried connecting today and it's saying that.
I wonder if your invite got
asking
kicked
for a
when
code.
Arnell did his purge.
Yeah, probably.
That purge was just fun.
On the cohort 11.
While you're doing that, I'm also going to clean up a little bit.
I think
You have
last
an invite, by the
time
way.
cohort 10 or 11-1.
Yeah, you're invited to 12E now.
Okay. Cool. Thanks.
That's everybody. 21 students. Yep, that's okay. Good. All right, that is it. I want to see any questions. Actually, no,